to start the recording there, and then it'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
All better. Now.
Okay, nothing's up so far. Alright, and then we get our first immortality thrown here, so let's just rewatch that real quick. So Reinhardt ends up getting hooked. Okay, and then immortality just comes out a second late. So, yep, not much to say on the first one there. Okay, and then we get domed right after that. So, not too much to say. That's just like a slight reaction time thing. We'll just see if there's anything that repeats here. Yeah, and then we just get shot right after he dies.
Regen burst activated.
Fire at will.
Get inside.
Spotted them.
Yeah, like that we're not just, we're not holding on to immortality, that we're kind of throwing it pretty frequently.
Better.
We took the fight back. There's a good save on the Zarya. Okay, it's looking like we're looking to use immortality here. Okay, so there it seems. Okay, so we do get some value out of shooting through it. Reinhardt goes in aggressively. Potentially there we could have like plopped it in front of a Reinhardt, that way you can get like a fire strike through it to like when they're trying to walk through. But besides that, I like the timing of it, and so far things been looking pretty smooth. Aside from like the first fight here, we've just kind of been holding them really solidly.
So what I usually do is, like, if someone goes out of position or the enemy uses an ult, that's when I'll throw my window.
Yeah, so we can pretty much that's good timings usually. But we can also just throw it, even before other people use their ultimates, as long as the fight's like kind of begun and they're near enough to us. So basically the benchmarker you'd have here is once you have a couple people through this choke area. Because if you're just starting to walk through, then they can just back up super easily, but if they're through it, then they're not going to be able to back up too fast and too easily, and then that means that we can kind of melt them, and it doesn't necessarily require them to have used an ultimate for us to use our ultimate, though that is a good indication that the fight's beginning sometimes. So yeah, you have the right idea, but we don't necessarily have to wait for one of those to be the case to use their ultimate. But yeah, we'll just wait and see like when things go wrong here, because obviously it go wrong at some point.
Yeah, this is a loss, so.
Alright. Okay, so a couple things. First off, so this lamp here, we end up throwing it way too early. So we toss it like before, like tire even
Okay,
comes into.
I had no idea where that tire was,
Mm.
and if you like zoom out, you'll see that it's right there. I thought he was going to just leap straight up with it, and.
So usually you're
Yeah.
going to want to like hold on to it for just a little bit longer, just so that you can actually see it. Because let's say like it comes up around the corner here, that's actually like to the range in which it might not actually kill you if it's that far away from you. Because it has a fall off, the further away it is, the less it's doing. So you have like some reaction time, and as it gets closer, you're going to hear it more and more. You're going to hear it approach. So we might want to just wait, because what ends up happening here is that it just ends up, our immortality just goes away before it even gets to us. The second thing is that we throw immortality straight out in the open here, which is something we
Yeah,
did.
probably in the corner.
Yep, using cover much would be a lot better, because then they can't destroy it from main there, and then it would extend the duration in which it stays alive. And then besides, like, that's the main thing here, is that we just throw it too early. We throw it out in the open. We kind of walk out in the open as well. And then Tyre dies anyways, so potentially we didn't even need immortality, like if we held on to it, right? And then that's an immortality that now we have for when the fight's happening. Okay, and then we don't seem to notice that they're walking up behind us. So here, when we focus on the tire, we completely forget just about our surroundings, and then we like kind of walk backwards. We like kind of are putting ourselves in like easy line of sight of everybody on their team, right? And then on top of that, we're gonna notice in a second here that we just don't notice that they walk up onto the high ground. So we see them Reinhardt charge through, but then like we just plop straight down here, and then the McCree just walks right up next to us and flashbangs us. Whereas we could potentially just drop down this side. We could have at any point here drop down in the front, and then that would just put us in a much better position than sitting up here on the high ground and ignoring these guys, because then we kind of walk forwards like as if they're not there, and then we just get killed. So that would come into the awareness category of paying attention to our environments, remembering that he's there, paying attention to what's happening so we can make better decisions. So just skipping
Yeah.
forwards here. And then obviously, like, us dying there is not very good, because then that puts our team at a disadvantage, and that's kind of our impact on losing that fight. Or at least we didn't lose it, but it could have been a lost fight if we, because of that death.
Regen up. All better.
Alright, so after we come back, we seem to be like a little bit all over the place. Like we kind of seemed a little bit more in tune earlier. So like we come back in here, and then the first thing I'm noticing is that we just kind of shoot some right clicks off into nothing. Like this right click right there goes in the cart, that one goes in the wall. That one hits the Reinhardt, so that one's good. And then we come up here and we reload, and then so we see the Junkrat, we start shooting at Junkrat, so that's good, that's fine. And then we just are kind of really separated and split from our team at the moment, which is fine because we have the high ground advantage. We can stay up here as long as we want. But then we just kind of leap out into the open, which is probably pretty unnecessary. I mean, we could just stay up on the high ground, and we don't fully charge our leap. We just kind of plop ourselves straight down in the middle of the open, which just lets them all shoot at us very easily. And then we again just kind of leap, and we miss the high ground jump, and then we Junkrat's right next to us, and we do and again a tiny little leap. So just in general here, let's just like break this down. First off, make sure we're not just purposefully putting ourselves out in the open. Good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. When we have something like this, for example, let's just take payload, right? They can see us, can't see us, can't see us, right? But when we're out in the open, there's nowhere we could possibly go, and we kind of just willingly plopped ourselves out in the open and then stayed out in the open for a very extended long period of time. The other thing I'm noticing is that we just aren't fully charging our jumps at all. If we had fully charged our jump from here, we probably could have made it all the way across to over here. If we had fully charged our jump from here, we might have been able to make it all the way up to here. If we did it again right here, we probably could have made it all the way up to here, but we kind of half charged all 3 jumps, and then it never ended up bringing us anywhere, and then we just now are sitting out in the open on the floor right next to the Junkrat, and then that gets kills us. Finally, after all of that, we probably were just in a really, or like the thing there was that we were just in really bad positioning, like right next to a Junkrat. And if we had been in better positioning, we wouldn't have died. But alternatively as well, if we see, oh snap, I'm in a bad spot, we also have lamp as an option, right, to save our life. If we're dying with lamp available, then that's a death that could have been prevented, and then that therefore we don't actually didn't need to actually die. Sorry, I'm stuttering over my words there.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that those mistakes on my part should have only resulted in me forcing my lamp out.
Exactly, right.
Than,
so their lamp could have made up for our mistakes. But of course, we didn't want to make those mistakes in the first place, because then you don't have to waste your lamp. But
yeah,
it's better to waste lamp and stay alive than to not use it at all and then die.
Can't be attitude positive.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Ooh, some nice shots. So general mechanics looking very solid.
Regen burst activated.
So here we're a little far pushed forwards, and I don't think that we're backing up as fast as we should be. Like we are kind of before the McCree High Noon, we were kind of chilling here in this area, and right now we currently only have 3 people alive, and they have 6 people alive. So this isn't an instance where we should probably just be running and trying to regroup with our team, but we're kind of chilling here a little bit too long. Not after he high noons. Of course, we need to get to cover, but we are standing out in the open in this corridor where there's no cover at all, and then we're also just like didn't back up when we could have. So we just want to make sure. Again, that's kind of coming down to awareness and paying attention to the environment. Now we are backing up, just a little bit delayed. Now Reinhardt's obviously not paying attention there. Okay, so we ult to keep Reinhardt alive. I like that we're not holding on to it at all. Make sure we're prioritizing keeping Reinhardt alive when
that
he's
was
like,
ballsy.
yeah, when he's like 1 HP, right? Because you can, usually you're gonna want to prioritize, healing over damage. Damage comes as a secondary, whereas healing comes as a primary. You could keep Reinhardt alive, and then he and you can shoot the person to kill them. But if he's dead, then it's just you to kill the person. So like, basically how it works is that the maximum gain you get out of shooting is a 1-for-1 trade, whereas the maximum gain you can get out of a healing is a 1-for-0. So it's usually gonna be better to go for that 1-for-0 rather than a 1-for-1, which isn't nearly as good. Right, so here we just don't want to lose a Reinhardt, and we just keep shooting after he's like 1 HP for a little while. So just pay attention to health bars, make sure we're shooting as a priority. And then let's see what Reinhardt goes in really aggressive there. He seems to go out of our line of sight. So he goes forwards, he goes to the left. Make sure we're keeping up and we're paying attention to him, right? We're going, when he's going aggressive, we're going aggressive. We don't have anything to worry about if he's drawing all the attention and we have nobody to shoot at us. Like you can see how like McCree's all the way up there, and he has only like a tiny little bit more health than you. He's a squishy too, but yet he's surviving just because he has the space to do it. So we want to make sure we're capitalizing on that space and not allowing Reinhardt to die.
Enemy in my sight.
Regen up. Fully healed.
All right, there we just had a little bit poor positioning. So in there, we just probably want to be starting off on the left here because, pay attention to where your team's positioning. And on usually this right side is not going to be where you want to hold like ever, because if you're backing up, the only direction you have to back up to, right? We can't go this direction because they're there. We can't go this direction because there's nothing there. The only direction we can go is this left side. So it's going to be better for you if we're already on this left side, because then we have more space to back up, and then therefore we can survive longer. So we just probably never want to hold on this right side or similar positionings to that. So like we could come up with this, for example, like we wouldn't typically hold left side when we could hold right side, because we can just keep backing up this way. But if you're holding left side over here, you're not going to have much of anywhere to run, right? Same thing over here, right? If you're trying to back up, you might want to be backing up this way, whereas if you're holding on the right side there, not much to back up to. Where are you going to go, right? So we just want to be thinking of like where are we backing up to, and then positioning accordingly. Yeah, like we're taking the high ground there. That's good. Yeah, so we see the tire. Okay, I like the immortality.
Get in the immortality field.
That Junkrat only got one elimination with his tire the whole match.
Nice.
I generally kept him in check with that.
All right. So rewatch this real quick. So, issue at the moment is that we're standing out in the open currently. So, but basically just getting back into good positioning, right? Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Now I'm gonna like restate here. You probably want to be over here. Now, I said this, I said you didn't want to do this previously, but that's kind of in a different context. So the context there was that that's in the case that we want to be giving up, that we can be giving up and want to be giving up space. When we have to be contesting the point, there's no point in giving up space at all, right? You're not going to be
Yeah.
backing up and running away if we're trying to take the fight here. Whereas we probably weren't trying to take the fight here based off the fact that our team was all the way over here. So in this case, we probably want to be over near cover. That could be, that could be hugging this left wall. That probably would be hugging this right wall, or even using cart or something like that. We just don't want to be smack dab out in the open, which is just gonna get us killed, which it does get us killed because we're just standing here and we're out in the open, and then therefore we die, right? Just get pot shots put into us, right? And then we're gone. We just want to make sure we're using cover properly because when we're dying, that's just putting our team at a disadvantage, taking us out of the fight for 20 seconds, right? Where we're 10 seconds for respawn, 10 seconds for walk back. So we just want to cut out these deaths, use some better positioning. That way we can, hopefully win that fight rather than losing it.
Got you good as new.
Oh, this was a mistake here. Yeah, and like force. Yeah, I stay out here way too long, and he gets hook back, and I think, oh, I'm gonna pull this hook.
Yeah. Okay. So.
I thought yeah.
The big thing there is when we're trying to, for example, pull. First off, you're right. Staying on the single for too long is probably a bad idea. Typically, it's not on supports to do off angles, right? This right here is an off angle, and it's
Yeah.
typically that's not your role as a support, right? That's just that this is something a DPS would do, which we probably don't want to. Instead, we just be up here with our team because from here we cannot lamp, we cannot use our shift, we cannot heal at all, which is basically putting like 70% of our kit out the window, right? It just means that we can't do anything but just shoot, which isn't what Baptiste is meant for. Secondly, when we're trying to do kind of the hook dodge here, we're trying to get it to break essentially. We do too wide of a peak. So when we jump, first off, we jump around the corner. Just in general, you're gonna find that we don't want to spam jump. So how you go jump in a moment here. I guess we're not spam jumping too much here, but we jump around the corner, right? And typically you're not gonna want to jump because it does a couple different things. First off, it's just gonna make you an easier target to headshot. Secondly, it's just gonna make it so you have less control over your mobility, which means that now we jump around the corner, we can't stop ourselves, and then we just jump straight into the Roadhog. Secondly, we kind of peek way too far, so we talked about cover usage. We do a wide peek where we just kind of come all the way around the corner, whereas what we could have done is do kind of a soft peek where we're just like right here, and then now Hog hooks us and we just duck around the corner real quick, so we just peek too far, because you see this, we can come all the way around the corner, and then now Hog just hooks us a lot easier than, like, let's say we were like right here where we can still use the cover. Now we can't use cover because of how far away we are. So, and then even if we even just think about it like one step further, what value would we have gotten out of canceling Hog's hook? Like,
Yeah,
realistically, what does that give us? It's just like it's just a cooldown, right? It's not
yeah.
like that would do a ton for helping your team. So it's just kind of like a needless risk. It's kind of like you want to analyze the risk versus reward. It was a very high risk for very little reward. There was like pretty much nothing you would gain from taking a very
Yeah.
risky play. So we just don't want to take it, right? Instead, just stick with the team, do the basics.
Like
'Cause then-
probably the best thing I could have done against Hog is like got him super low and forced out nano or something. But even that, it's just like
unlikely against a Hog,
Yeah.
right? It's like, you have a chance, but it's still not something you usually want to take. Sometimes duels, like when you have a big disadvantage, you just say no and you run away, right? You don't want to purposefully take duels at where you have the disadvantage, like, right? That's like if you as Baptiste it's intentionally tried to duel a Tracer or a Roadhog or something like that who's really good against you. You wouldn't want to intentionally take that when you would probably lose it, when you could just run away and then help your team and then they could help you out, right? And then again, that just puts our team at so far survivability is looking like a little bit of something to work on, as a lot of our deaths are happening kind of earlier in fights. Now, when it comes to deaths, some deaths are just worse than other deaths. Like for example, if you're dying first versus if you're dying last. If you're dying last, that means that by that point you've pretty much lost the fight, right? So it's not really that big a deal. But when you die first, that's a big deal because you're putting your team at a disadvantage, right? Now they're down a person, which means they're more likely to lose the fight, and then you're also making it so that you're out of the fight for a whole 10 seconds of respawn time, 10 seconds of time while you're walking back, roughly 20 seconds of death, which means that so far in this game we've died like 1, 2, 3, 4 times roughly, right? Or
Yeah.
which means that that's a whole minute and 20 seconds so far that we've just not participated, that we haven't done anything during, and we've actively put our team at a disadvantage, which means that that's going to really, really add up over time, and is going to mean that if we look to cut out some of those deaths by thinking about what did we do wrong, we can look to improve some of our gameplay and not be putting our losing as many fights. Your
Don't use the shift.
yeah, your shift is a 10-meter radius around you, so just keep that in mind. And it's just that's too far, right?
Shoot to heal. Let them out.
Very nice timing. I like that timing. Ult looking really solid there.
Look like you needed some healing.
We got 2 picks out of it.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Regen burst activated.
Somebody get me healing.
Step right.
It is will.
30 seconds remaining.
Let's take this home.
Okay, not a whole lot happening at the moment here.
Dein Schutzengel ist da. Helden sterben nicht.
Okay, so let's rewatch that a little bit. So we come in here, they use, first off, Reinhardt's out of our line of sight, so we might want to just, put him in our line of sight, because currently we can't heal him too well, so we could just hop on top of cart, move a little bit further to the right, and then this would make it so we could heal him a lot easier, because currently, that's a really hard shot to hit on him, which just makes it super difficult to keep him alive. So we throw that down. There's not really any cover to use. Now this is, in general, right here, our team is holding in really terrible positioning. They're like, we probably should not be in this choke right here, when we probably should be further back holding this corner. That'd probably be the best angle for us to have here. Whereas, holding up here is just not going to be very great for us. And then that means, therefore, as a byproduct, we don't have any good lamp spots. And then, therefore, our lamp goes down instantaneously. So lamp doesn't do anything in particular there. Why don't we talk about something else real quick? So we're at 8 minutes, 50 seconds. So,
Yeah.
we'll just go over some mechanical things. Are you familiar with the term crosshair placement?
Yes.
Yep. So let's just review that real quick, and just show you what we need to work on here, right? Crosshair placement essentially is just placing your crosshair in the best place possible to hit the easiest shots. Basically, the first major step that we're not taking for it is that we want to make sure we're constantly aiming at head level, particularly when we're going for, of course, the DPS shots. When you're going for healing, you can't hit headshots, so we want to be aiming at their feet, right? But whenever we're going for damage shots, if we're aiming at their feet, this means that we're just hitting body shots, which body shots do a whole lot less damage than when we're hitting headshots. Headshots do like double the amount of damage, right, than if we're doing body shots. So we want to be going for the headshots rather than the body shots, which means that if we're aiming down here all the time when we're going up for, to shoot enemies, that's going to make headshots very difficult. Whereas if we're aiming up here when we're going for enemies, headshots become very easy. It's much easier to hit shots when there's less adjustment. When we have to do a shot like this, right, this is a very hard shot to hit because we have to adjust so far. Whereas when we're just going from here to there, it's just very easy shots, right? So
Yeah.
we just want to make sure we're aiming at head level. That just makes it so that we're spamming the shield, spamming at tanks, spamming down the corridor, shooting at anybody, just our default shots. It goes from being body shots to just now our default shots are just headshots, just because we're keeping our crosshair there, right? So we just want to make sure we're doing that just so we can be more efficient with our damage. And then, on top of that, we're going to also aim where we know people are going to be. So, for example, person goes top left, we're going to pre-aim on the top left doorway so then when he turns around the corner, there's very little adjustment until we get the kill, right? We know he's left side, so we're going to pre-aim at head level around the corner, so when we turn the corner, we're already aiming at his head, right? These guys, a little
Yeah.
bit of a slope, right? So the same way we'd aim at a Torbjorn down or we'd aim at a tank a little bit higher, we're going to aim down a little bit on these guys, right? That way when we turn the corner, pretty much already aimed at his head, right? So we just want to make sure we're keeping these,
You or me, sister?
good cross replacement so that we can actually hit headshots. Now, like I said, on Baptiste is a little bit different because, you're adjusting up and down all the time because you have to go for, heal shots and then you're adjusting up to headshots. Heal, up to head. Heal, up to head, right? But we just want to get into that habit so that we can actually do effective damage, whereas what we kind of been doing is heal and then, a little bit of this and then heal and then this, right? And it's just a lot less damage that we're doing.
Double kill.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay.
Traveling to Numba. Ready for battle.
وريهم قوتك. هذه اشتغلت.
Once again, leaving the Rhine on 1 HP.
Yeah, well, there were we healing him or were
No, it was,
no? We just
it was
kind of
this
staring at him.
part, right?
Yeah,
Right
Yeah.
here.
yeah. We're just shooting a little bit more when Reinhardt's low. Good catch. So we just want to make sure we're paying attention to health bars. That's part of awareness, right? Is paying attention to people's health, our teammates' health bars, so we know who and when to heal.
Let them out.
Again.
I'm just windowing because
Mm.
he started overextending a little bit, so I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah. I don't.
they didn't push that too much.
I don't know if it was necessarily overextension. He was already in there, right? He was just backing up that whole time. So that ended up working out.
Step right up.
Yeah, we had close spawns and our team was walking back, so I don't think there's an issue there. We want to make sure that we're paying really close attention to our Reinhardt, though. It seems that Reinhardt is the one we seem to be neglecting sometimes, so we want to be really careful because, he's the one on our team who's going to be taking the most damage out of any other character on our team because he's the main tank, and that means that he can go from 0 to 1 very, very fast. So when Reinhardt's charging in and going super aggressive like that, right, and we heal him up a little bit, but then we see he's still going in, shooting at the
Yeah,
McCree,
lamp.
good.
Yeah, lamp should probably come out like in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, so shooting at McCree isn't super high priority because he just took a tiny little bit of damage, and we kind of take our attention away from the Reinhardt, who's in the middle of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, who's just a little bit bigger of a priority, right? So let's say McCree was even lower than that. Sometimes we have to kind of gauge danger level, right? We have to understand that health bar is not always danger level, right? Somebody could be critical and sitting in this corner. Does that mean that they're in danger?
No.
No, right, but Reinhardt could be full HP and standing in the middle of 5 people around the corner from you and be in very much danger, right? Which means that, we probably want to be more careful of him than the McCree, and then therefore looking at him and making sure he's not running too far ahead. So keep up with the Reinhardt. Lamp came out a little bit late, right? We want to make sure the Lamp's coming out on time, which would just mean that we're, paying attention to him earlier so that we can get lamp coming out on time. Okay, why don't we talk about strengths and weaknesses real quick of kind of what we're looking at with our gameplay. So ability usage, looking slightly inconsistent, right? For the most part, it's actually looking really decent. You know, there's not too big of an issue with it. But you know, it is once in a while where we're just kind of messing up with it, where it's not doing it too much, right? Where lamp will whiff, or our shift will just do from too far away. So ability usage in general is probably going to go at like a low to medium priority, or maybe medium priority of things to work on. Then on from there, ultimate usage, honestly looking really solid. Not a whole lot with our ultimate usage that we needed to talk about. We've had really good timing with them most of the time. We've usually gotten good value out of it, and you know it's done a decent job so far. So because of that, that's probably going at like a low for now. Maybe it'll go up if we have more to talk about it, but it's a low priority for you to work on. Then mechanics of just looking around and shooting, looking again pretty low. Not much to work on with just the general mechanics. We talked about making sure we're aiming at head level, but besides that, we hit shots just fine. So that one's probably going at a low to medium. Just because we talked about aiming at head level, and then that's pretty much it. The only thing we talked about in that category. Now we're starting to get to some of the bigger stuff here. Positioning. We've talked a little bit more about positioning. We've died a couple times with our position because of our positioning, because we've been out in the open a couple too many times, right? Where we're just standing out in the open, and then therefore we die too because of it. So we want to make sure we're remembering that good positioning is usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover, and then on top of that, what were other things with positioning? I think there's been a lot of times where just our team's been out of position. We want to make sure we're not going on off angles and going off to the right to duel the hog, because that's not our job. We want to make sure we're sticking with our Reinhardt and we're not letting him go too far away from us, right? Keeping him in our line of sight. We want to make sure we constantly have line of sight of on our teammates. Whereas probably like 3 or 4 times we've just let Reinhardt walk ahead of us and we're not keeping up with him. So we want to make sure that we're keeping up with our Reinhardt, and when he walks forwards, we're walking forwards with him, right? When he walks forwards, I mean, like, unless he's charging in the middle of their team when you're a mile away, you can't catch up, you should probably be with him, right? Just because, this wouldn't be too dangerous. Like, if he's over here and we're just, like, over here, we can keep line of sight on him, we can jump up in the air, we can, they're all looking at him, they're not looking at us, so we can, we're not in too much danger for just a little bit further forwards, right? We just want to make sure we're sticking up with him. So in total, positioning probably comes out at like a medium, maybe a medium high, but I think we're keeping it at a medium for now. And then finally, awareness. Awareness is probably looking like the biggest one so far, with just a lot of stuff that we're just not noticing, like Reinhardt running forwards being one of them. Also, just making sure that we're not, we're paying attention to health bars on our team. So, when should we be healing? When should we not be healing to like actually heal our Reinhardt when he's low? We've had things like, just paying attention to where tire is and listening for it, and making sure we're not lamping too early, paying attention to health bars and danger levels of people, so we know when to use our lamp. Besides that, there's just been a couple decision-making things, right, that have just been off. So overall, awareness is looking a little bit higher on maybe like a medium high-ish, and then we'll adjust all those as we go along. Survivability is kind of a category that I'd kind of inch in there, along with aggression. So far, honestly, like, just with all of your gameplay, it's not looking like you have much, like, any one category that's like really dominating and really needs work, but it's more like a tiny bit of everything that's pouring into the inconsistencies and the mistakes. So
Yeah.
you get a little bit of survivability mixed there, making sure we're not dying at the beginning of fights. Then you have a little bit of aggression mixed in there, where you want to make sure that we're not playing too passive when we should be getting aggressive, because there's some times where we have an advantage that we're just sitting back. And then yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment. So we'll adjust those as we go, and then we'll just continue on here. Here, notice again just our positioning, how we're just smack dab in the middle of nowhere, out in the open when we could be taking cover on the left side or on the right side. We want to make sure that we're just not out in the open, which is going to keep us alive longer. Using shift for nothing. So our shift usage, you're going to typically have, two main uses out of it. You have healing yourself up, or I guess I'll say three, right? You have healing yourself up when you are low, or need healing. You have healing your team, when it's just a bunch of people need healing, and then you also have burst healing. So when somebody is pretty low and they need to get healed really fast, you can heal them both from your regular gun and from your shift, which heals them twice as fast because it's two different sources healing them, right? Those are the three
Yeah.
times. In this situation, none of those applied, so therefore we just wasted like a 12-second cooldown, right? It's not like the most important ability, but it is still an ability that we wasted, so we want to make sure we're not doing that and paying attention to our surroundings, because that kind of comes in awareness too.
I'm on fire. All better.
Okay, we're at 9 minutes 46 seconds. I'm just gonna leave here real quick. I've noticed a little bit that a lot of the time we sit a decent bit far back from our team. We're usually kind of a medium distance away from them, and we typically want to make sure that we're standing next to our team.
Yeah.
For a couple
So I'm
different
kind of
reasons.
playing it like
Yep.
an Ana position or something.
Yep, where we're just sitting a little bit far away from them, right? Whereas Baptiste, he has a lot of reasons why he benefits from being next to his team. First off, you have your shift usage, which, as we discussed, is 10 meters, which is, roughly this distance, or is not roughly, but is this distance away from people, right? Whereas if we step outside of this, now we're not actually doing anything with it, but we step within that, and then now we're actually being able to use it. So if we're too far away, we're not going to be able to use our shift to heal anybody. On top of that, from this distance, to other of our abilities, so our just healing is going to have a delay on it, so we're actually healing people just slower, and it's also just the general rule with projectiles is they are more difficult to land the further away you are from people, because when we're right here, there's no effort put into that. But when we're like really, really far away, or just even a medium distance, now we have to predict where people are moving, we have to aim it, we have to, it's a lot more difficult to land those shots than when we're right next to them. Same exact thing with your immortality field, is that your immortality field is just going to, have a delay on it. Like when we're all the way over here and we get to immortality, or like even just a medium distance, immortality is going to have a delay before it goes up. So that means that, it's already taking you time to react to whatever is coming in. So that means that there's even more time before the thing happens and they get the immortality field, right? On top of that, this is going to make it more difficult for us to put a ultimate in front of our team as well. Just messes with the angle, makes it harder for us to give it to them and then also shoot through it ourselves. Whereas when we're right next to them, we can just plop in front of all of us, and then now we all get to shoot through it, right? And we get more value out of it. So just a lot of different reasons why we usually want to stick with them. So rather than sitting far back like this, we might want to be like, more so like right here, so we can just heal them up really easily, and then use all our abilities much more effectively, right? Be able to place all our abilities better, right?
Yeah.
Another quick just itsy bitsy tech thing to toss in here, just in case you weren't aware. Your right click and your immortality field travel the same projectile path, so you toss your right click in there, and your immortality is going to go to the exact same spot. So that's just helpful for landing long distance immortality fields.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I knew about that, but it's all the things except for the lamp has a skybox limit, but
Mm-hmm.
the right clicks do not.
Yep. All right, so we are like 9 minutes here. I think it was like 9:40. And another shift that didn't do a whole lot. Okay, did we think we had our ultimate there? I think we were trying to aim down for our ultimate there. Because we kind of stared
No,
at this, so yeah.
I thought the Reaper was gonna push me more, and that's why I did that.
Are you sure? Because we were like staring at the floor. I think we thought we had our ultimate because we were like 98 to it. We kind of paid attention to the fact that we were like kind of staring at the floor here, and then we looked up and then kept shooting. So I think we were trying to place our ult. All right, so defense actually went pretty decently solid. So let's see where the problems come in on attack.
Taking the high ground. Fully healed. Regen burst activated. Get in here.
Okay. Damaging when people need healing. Immortality comes late. We want to make sure we're putting extra careful attention. So now that we've gone a little bit through here, immortality seems to have kind of like a 50% success rate where it's just kind of doing a lot of stuff half the time, then we kind of whiff it and it doesn't do much the other half of the time. And we want to, of course, do more with it. We want to be able to get value out of it, which means that it's just inconsistent at the moment. We want to look to get better so that we're getting value out of it like 80% of the time, or like 8 out of 10, right? Rather than just being good with it like 5 out of 10, right? So
I feel like it's just like, oh, this is too early to throw it.
yep,
The fight hasn't barely even started.
yep. So
When really, like, if I throw it right there, then I'd
save Reinhardt, right? And honestly, you don't have like it's better that you save his life, especially like when you're not saving it for anything in particular, right? The only time you'd like hold on to it is if like there's something coming that's going to kill more than one person. So for example, let's say like they have a nano blade, and you might say, okay, well I might have to sacrifice my Reinhardt so that we can actually stop the nano blade, right? Or like if we don't have another option for it, right? Or a grab dragon or something of the sort, right? But there's not that, if there's nothing we're saving it particularly for, even when it's up against some other ultimates, we might just want to save the Reinhardt because then we're not down a person coming into this fight, right? And in this instance where they don't have any ultimates, what else are we going to save it for? This is like the thing that you're using immortality for, right? So there's no too early if you're saving someone's life, which here we would save Reinhardt's life if he gets pinned, right? So we just want to make sure we're not hesitating with it, that we're tossing it out, that we're intentionally putting a lot of thought and effort into our lamps. There it bounces off like the wall, I think.
the stairs.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. That was a very fast chatter.
Well, it could be worse. Hey, you're fully healed.
Okay. So let's come in here, rewatch a little bit of this. First off, just while we're pushing in here, watch the overhealing. So we'll talk more in depth on it if it repeats itself. But at the moment, it's not looking like it's super repetitive. But it kind of feeds into like the thing we were talking about, where it's just like a little bit of everything sprinkled into our problems. We notice we're coming in here, we just see a little bit of overhealing where people are full HP, yet we're just chucking right clicks at them. So for example, here we shoot a shot at McCree, who's full HP, and we shoot a shot at Reinhardt, who's full HP here in a moment, right? Full HP. And then in a moment here, we're full HP, and then we're about to do it again in a moment where these guys are down like 10 HP each, and we're still shooting in some right clicks. So that's just a little bit of overhealing. That's not it's not affecting our gameplay a ton, but it's still another tiny little thing that's added in there. Now here this lamp does come in late again. We see Reinhardt charge in. You see him get the thing on him, right? And then we chuck in a lamp, and lamp comes out too late. We chuck it after he's already dead. And then on top of that, this is also another instance where maybe being with our team rather than far away from them. Like if we rotated in with them and we were over here, lamp might come faster and get to him sooner, right? Which might keep him alive. but lamp just comes delayed, so we want to make sure putting thought and effort. So let's go through this real quick. You might be saying to me, well, Boogie, yeah, sure, I have to throw my lamp faster, but like, how do I do that? How does one, just do like improve at lamp throwing your lamp faster? That seems like kind of a vague concept. Well, it's going to be the exact same way that you look to improve at anything else that you're trying to work on, right? And that is to really focus on the thing you're trying to work on, not autopilot while you play. You're not going to just focus on winning while you play. You're going to focus on improving, not going to play to just play. Instead, we're going to focus on the thing we're trying to work on, and then that in this instance would be lamp. So what our brain would look like while we're playing is it'd look like, or we'd basically be saying to ourselves, lamp, 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 right? And when we're doing that, you're going to start to notice we're paying attention to our lamp a little bit more, and we're looking for situations to use lamp, and we're paying attention to health bars and danger levels of people. And when we're putting a more thought and effort into our lamp usage, you're going to notice it's going to start to do a little bit better. And then when we do that for a long enough period of time, it's going to start to form as a habit. And when it forms as a habit, we no longer need to put in the same thought and effort, and then therefore we can put it into something else, right? And then that's how you look to improve upon things. Now we've talked about like, a ton of stuff here, a ton of tiny things that all add up, and you're not going to want to focus on every single thing at once because that's going to get overwhelming. Instead,
Yeah.
focus on, one category of things or 1 to 3 smaller things, right? And then move on once you feel like you've mastered them. All right,
Got
so
it.
because of just all the inconsistencies we've seen with lamp, I don't remember where I placed ability usage. I think I placed it like medium priority, but I think we're putting that up a little bit higher to maybe like a medium high priority. Just bumping it up there just because it has a little bit higher of a priority.
Let them up.
I've noticed a lot that we're prone to putting our ultimate for ourselves a lot. Now we do sometimes include some teammates around us, but a lot of the times it's only really like if they're just like with us. Like for example, here with Ash, I don't even know if I would say like we're putting it down for Ash.
No, I
She
didn't
just
put it
happened to
down.
be
I
there.
didn't put
Yeah,
it down for us.
exactly, because she just kind of
To be
happened to be
honest, yeah.
there. So that that typically seems to be the pattern where like it just if someone else is there, they just happen to be there. Whereas don't typically put it down for our team. So that kind of comes in with two different things. First off, that means that we're not in a position to put it down with our team if we're all the way over here, which in this instance isn't the most terrible. I'd probably say the only like we don't want to be on top of your tanks because that'd be a very bad spot to be in. But the only other spot to be would be like over with Ana. But in any case, there's been other instances where we just are really split from our team, and or a little too far back where we should be a little bit closer, and then that would allow us to use our ultimate a little bit better. And then on top of that, just when they're in front of you, give it to them. There's been some times where like we just had our teammates like right in front of us, and we just instead just placed it right in front of ourselves. And when we could have just put it in front of them, and then all of us could have shot through it. Now, putting in front of yourselves does have its situations where it's going to be useful, particularly if you're nowhere near your team, like in this instance, like where we're just not near them. And then also, like, if you need to burst heal people, so like you need to use it particularly to just heal them alive, that's, another situation we can use it for ourselves. But if they're all full HP and they're right next to you, there really isn't any reason not to just give it to them. Which we've done a couple times, so we just want to make sure we're not doing that.
Regen up.
Okay, prioritizing damage when like we have someone else who's low HP, right? So re-looking at
Yeah.
that. So here we're damaging, we heal the Ash up, but then look at the Ana who's also low. Here we have a Genji on top of us. And rather than just running backwards, which does a couple different things. First off, this puts us further away from our team, so that means that they cannot help us, and it also means that we cannot help them. So for example, Ana, we can't heal Ana up because now we're too far away and we're not looking at her. And then the other thing is that we could just very easily charge up a jump and just hop up to high ground, right?
Yeah, that's what I tried to do, but I didn't charge it enough.
Okay, which seems to be a theme, so we want to make sure we're charging it up. Do
Right
we?
here.
Oh, there. Okay, yeah. We kind of like quarter.
You see me just shake my head.
Yeah, we kind of like quarter charge them. We want to make sure we're using a little bit harder, or saving him a little bit longer. The other thing is that we're doing it pretty much just the second he's diving us. So, right now they have 1, 2, 3 dive characters right there in Genji, Echo, Diva. Right when they have flanker characters or dive characters or playstyle on Baptiste, is basically like we're just going to be not necessarily always holding down a crouch, but anytime we're paying very close attention to those guys, and whenever they look like they're about to dive us, we're just going to hold down a crouch. When they get on top of us, we're just going to leap up to a high ground, right? Instantaneously just gets rid of them. It means that they can't attack you anymore, and you're safe. Which is like what we're trying to do. We're trying to get away from them and escape. So it's just a really easy way to do that, which we're not doing. Like we get dove and we don't have a crouch charged up and we're not ready for it, and then we just kind of run backwards, and therefore we just end up dying without being able to do anything. All right. So just a couple of things we did wrong: not paying attention to Ana, not jumping up to high ground, quarter charging your jump.
All better. Now.
Okay. To clarify once more, the topic we talked about before with making sure we're near our team, one instance where that can get overruled is when we're taking high grounds, and then the high ground gives additional advantages that being next to your, they would kind of counteract not being next to your team. Additionally, you don't want to be like inside of your team if they're like super far on the open. Like if they're on, like your tanks were on point all the way over here, it just might be a lot better for you to be like on a high ground or just sitting main in that situation. Or if they're just inting into the enemy team and they like go all the way over here and they're like super far away, well then in that case, you don't need to be right next to them because that just gets you killed. All right, so there's a couple situations where it doesn't apply, but for the most part, most of the time it will apply.
Yeah.
Immortality for the ultimate. There we just tunnel vision a little bit too much on the damage.
Usually with default, I'm a little too trusting of my team to avoid it.
To
So I'm like,
use
oh,
to yeah,
they can just go into the mega room.
don't do that. So instead, rather than just expecting them to avoid it, because that's not always gonna be the case, Diva Bomb gets kills, right? It's not like it never does anything, right? That's like it's just that's not the case, right? So Diva Bomb's going to get kills almost guaranteed, which means that we want to make sure we're just seeing, is anybody not going to be able to make it? So for example, if we're already in a good position, like we have high ground here, we can just peek the edge, go, okay, where's everyone at? Just take a look, look at them, right? We can see them through walls as well, and just check, see who can get away, who can't, and then we can throw our lamp for the people who can't get away from it, right? Which is a pretty simple thing to do. Instead, what we do is we just kind of don't even look at anybody. We just keep shooting at Reinhardt, keep shooting at Ryan, and we just kind of glance down real quick, and then 2 people die, right? Because they were just too far. I mean, where the Ana die at? Oh, she's right here. So like, I mean, they probably could have both made it, but I mean they didn't. So which is still on us because we could have stopped it from happening to both of them, right? So we just want to make sure we're actually helping out and help immortalitying for them. Honestly, one thing I'm noticing is that like we're putting a little bit too much emphasis on our healing and damaging over just our ability usage, particularly our lamp. I just like to see us put more effort into our lamp usage because it's a pretty important ability, right? It's like basically an
Yeah.
ultimate on a cooldown. It's your second ultimate, and we kind of seem to not put too much effort into it, and then therefore like we toss them out, and like half of them do nothing, or we have situations like this one where it would have been really good, yet we just don't use it. So we want to make sure we're putting a lot more effort into it. Also, I didn't realize we're running out of time here, so real quick, we'll hop back here. Usually I start this a little bit earlier, but go ahead.
Because one of the characters I play the most is Moira, and with her it's just like heal damage.
Yep.
That's all.
Which Baptiste is slightly different, right? Because we have a really important ability that we got to worry about, right?
Oh, I did have a question. So like, what's the best way to decide if I should play backroom Moira in a comp?
Typically, if you're asking that question, we're not going to get an answer you like. Probably never Moira, because Moira is not that good of a character. Moira just, yeah, in general, Moira's just always been an inferior character to Baptiste and Ana, just because they have higher skill caps than other characters. Now, if you go like lower in ranks, then you don't have a big issue, and then on top of that, like you can play any character at any rank, like and one trick them or anything, and it will work in ranked environment. Like I know a one trick DPS Moira who is 4500 SR, right? Just because you could get anywhere if you're skilled enough on any character, even if they're not great. But if you're talking about like which character is going to be a better character or meta, or what character works better in a team environment, Moira is rarely going to be the answer. She has been in the past, but most of the time not, just because Baptiste and Ana have higher output with their, especially their abilities. Is the big one. Is just their abilities really do a whole lot when Moira's don't. So most of the time, Baptiste, so you just find more value on Baptiste. But if you're asking just flat up, like when Moira would be applicable, Moira would be applicable. Let's see, when you like just flat up need a ton of heals. So like, let's say you're running like a I don't know. It's hard to say because like I don't know if I would ever say that Moira is really super applicable. Probably say that she would work like if you're running like a super hard dive and you're trying to dive in with your team, like a 6-man dive. So like you're not just sitting in the back, but you're like fading in with them. That's the situation.
So you basically have to play aggro.
Yeah, you'd have to play aggro like there. And then besides that, Moira pretty much works in like every comp Bap works, except for just less efficiently. She would work like in a brawl really well, but so does Baptiste, right? So that's just it's really hard to say, but like Baptiste is basically just better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yep. And so yeah, getting into the rest of the stuff here. So we're gonna go over the main points and then a very quick review because we're only at 3 minutes left here. And then finally wrap up the session from there. So main points. Number 1 is probably going to be our I'm probably gonna put it at our immortality usage, because awareness is pretty high as well, but I think our immortality just beat it out by a little bit, as well as if we cut out, if we get better with our immortality usage, that will cut out a big portion of our awareness anyways, so it therefore goes down a little bit, the priority for it. So that one, it goes to number 1. Number 2 is going to be our awareness. Number 3 is going to be our, let's see, probably going to be our positioning, yep, and then number 4 is going to be our mechanics, just a little bit of overhealing, make sure aiming head level, and then number 5 is our ultimate, which just makes sure we're not hogging it for ourselves, we're using for our team once in a while. Alright, and then that is pretty much it. So any questions? Oh, and then survivability, just make sure we're kind of as odds and ends here, just make sure we're staying alive more, that kind of fits in around the middle, right? And then on top of that, making sure that we are our aggression, right? Making sure that we're getting aggressive when our team is, and we're getting passive when they're dead, right? We're not kind of, sometimes you just get passive when like our team had an advantage, right? And then that is pretty much it. So any other questions about anything we've gone over?
No, I think I'm okay. I think that covers it.
All right. Well, then I'm going to end the recording.